keep Atlanta crime out of our North Georgia mountains. That's what I want to talk about for a couple minutes. My name is K Pritchard, and I'm running for Georgia State House District 7. And let me tell you something. We have to protect our neighbors, protect our citizens, protect our children. The cartels are here. I will support law enforcement. As your representative, I will go to Atlanta and do everything I can to get the resources needed to support our law enforcement, to keep us safe here at home, and keep Atlanta crime out of our North Georgia mountains and get the cartels out of here. Now, do you know this lady? Okay. Do you know her? Maybe you don't. Missing mother of two discovered in cherry log murder. Okay. Last seen in Doraville, Georgia on April 17th, Rosanna Delgato was discovered as a victim of a murder in Cherry Log, in our nice little cabin community of Cherry Log, Georgia, right on the Gilmer Fannin line. You know what? I have to report, she was chopped up. She was brought here by a cartel, illegals in this country, and I'm sorry how graphic it is. She was chopped up in a bathtub in a cabin. I am so sorry. Okay? Now, let's listen. The cartels are here. All right? I'm going to ask, you're going to listen to BKP, that's me. I'm going to ask our DA, B. Alison Sosebee, a question. Pay attention to this for me, please, very close. Go ahead.
Past, I don't want to say 48 hours, but if somebody was cooking meth in their house or a trailer somewhere, within about 48 hours, some relative or some friend would give them up, and in about 48 hours, you'd have the investigation be somewhat wrapped up. Am I correct? Is it a whole different, what they're saying they're running into? What's the difference in having to try to find the people, prosecute the people, and deal with these kind of crimes different from a meth bust 2 years ago?
Okay, what's the difference? What's the difference in the drug problems, the crime we were dealing with 2 years ago, today? What is the difference? Go ahead, let's let the DA say it's cartel connections.
It's cartel connections.
One more time.
It's cartel connections.
It's cartel connections. Cartel connections, folks. Yes. That's what we're up against. Now, let's listen to the DA talk about dealing with cartels right here in our 7th district in North Georgia, dealing with cartels.
We have very
cartel connections.
And when people are dealing with the cartel, I mean, you are talking not only interstate, you are talking about going across the border. And that is developing collaborations with other federal agencies. But once again, I go back to it is providing resources to our local law enforcement agencies that they have the ability to effectively investigate cases of that magnitude.
Going back, they need different resources. We must understand your next representative going to Atlanta, vote Brian K. Pritchard January 3rd for State House District 7, because I understand our law enforcement needs the resources not to just deal with a problem here in the 7th District, to deal with a problem in the 7th District where they're dealing with GBI, FBI, Border Patrol. I mean, they have to be able to deal with all these agencies because the cartels are here, okay? Keep Atlanta crime in Atlanta and keep it away from our North Georgia mountains, and I will work to do that. Now, let's go We've talked about dealing with the cartels. I wonder if it has anything to do with an open border right here in our 7th district. Let's talk about the crisis on the border.
Switch to this, the crisis on the border, okay? A couple things you could share with us. How do you feel when you see the media attack fellow law enforcement like the Border Patrol agents that are just trying to do their job? How do you guys feel when you see things like that? And then while you're answering that, has the crisis on the border trickled up to here with drugs and illegals and so forth? How do you feel about that? Go ahead.
Now I asked them a question. I have Dane Kirby, the sheriff of Fannin County. I've got Stacy Nicholson, the sheriff of Gilmer County, and not in the 7th district, but I have Towns County Sheriff Ken Henderson. Now keep in mind, when Towns County Sheriff Ken Henderson shares with us, to get to Towns County, they've got to come through where? Gilmer and Fannin County. Bring those drugs right on through here, cartels. Folks, I'm not going to put up with it. I'm going to do everything I can to help these people. Let's listen to the crisis on the border. Listen to Stacy Nicholson, the sheriff of Gilmer County, about the crisis on the border.
The media that's attacking the Border Patrol agents and the media that's covering up the fact that the border is wide open, and they're saying that it's not. They're lying. The border is wide open, and the drugs that we are seeing in North Georgia comes directly from Mexico to Atlanta to North Georgia.
The border is wide open, and the drugs you see coming to North Georgia are directly from Mexico. The border coming through here illegally. The border is wide open. You see it. Now, what I want to play next, I want you to listen to Sheriff in Fannin County, Dane Kirby, talk about when he first got elected, what the drug crisis was like then, when he first got elected. Let's listen to that.
Brian, I've been talking about this for months now. When and Sheriff Nicholson first got elected, he was a term before me, but when we first got elected in the drug world out here, we were chasing ounces and 8 balls, and if we could find one, we'd had a good day when it comes to meth. And now we're chasing kilos here in our counties. And I contribute that directly to the lax borders. When you start seeing shards of meth that are the size of icicles, those were not made in a lab in Gilmer County or Fannin County or Towns County or even in Atlanta.
I wonder where they're made. Now listen to that. Fannin County Sheriff, shards of meth. Fannin County Sheriff, shards of meth, Dane Kirby, of what they're up against. And what they used to chase, it was hard to find an ounce back then. This is what they're up against. Keep Atlanta crime out of our North Georgia mountains. And we will work to get the resources for our law enforcement. We're going to protect our children. We're going to protect our citizens. And we're going to do what we have to do to maintain safety in our District 7. And that's why I'm asking for your vote, Brian K. Pritchard, for House District 7. Now, let's listen to where Sheriff Dane Kirby says, produced in super labs?
Those were produced in super labs in Mexico, and they're coming straight across the border.
Produced in super labs in Mexico, coming straight across the border and finding their way to our district. The cartels are here. Now, I want you to listen to struggling to find an ounce. When they used to have a hard time just finding an ounce. Let's go ahead and listen to struggling to find an ounce back in the old days.
And Sheriff Kirby's exactly right. A few years ago, and I'll say this, a year and a half ago, we were struggling to find an ounce of methamphetamine in drug investigations. And about the mid-January or February mark of 2021, we started seeing kilos on traffic stops. You can't tell me that that's not a direct result of Joe Biden opening the border wide open.
Sheriff Stacy Nicholson of Gilmer County. Now, I want to play Towns County Sheriff Ken Henderson. Towns County is not in the 7th District, but keep in mind what's going on in Gilmer and Fannin. Cartels are here. The drugs are coming out of super labs made in Mexico through Atlanta here. Listen to Ken Henderson of Towns County.
I've been in office since January the 1st, and I could not believe what I was finding in our county. As the sheriff said, I had seen small amounts, maybe a spoonful of meth or maybe a little heroin here and there. In my 8 months, folks, I said, we're going to work on drugs. We're going to work hard to try to keep it out of our schools, away from our kids, and out of our community. Guess what? In 8 months, I have busted over 25 pounds of meth. Okay? So
8 months, he busted over 25 pounds of meth in Towns County. How did it get there? Straight up 515? Straight through Gilmer, straight through Fannin, right from Atlanta? Listen to Ken Henderson one more time about the cartels. Ken Henderson about the cartels.
When we got to looking into this, I'm a small agency. I cannot deal with the big boys. So I brought DEA in. I called the FBI. I said, hey, we got a big player here. This he is dealing out of Atlanta. The Colombian cartels set up in Atlanta, and there's a pipeline running up through Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, all this area, and huge amounts. In one night, I busted 6 pounds of meth, 6 pounds of marijuana, and just a number of pills that was in this bus. And I'm like, wow, I don't believe this. I even almost thought this stuff's not going to be real when it's tested. So we got a drug problem, and that's all related to the border crisis. They're moving it in here, and they're distributing it all over this country. And we've got to do something with our border.
Colombian cartel set up in Atlanta, moving it through Georgia, moving it through our Georgia State House District 7, moving it through. You've heard the law enforcement themselves out of their own mouth. One more time, let's play It's the Cartels.
It's Cartel Connections.
It's Cartel Connections. You remember when I started, I asked you if you know this lady here? Mother of 2, brought here from Doraville, murdered in a bathtub, dismembered in a bathtub in Cherry Log by gang members, cartel. Folks, when elected Georgia State House District 7 representative, you have my commitment that I will look for the resources and I will fight daily to keep Atlanta crime in Atlanta and out of the North Georgia mountains. Our sheriffs, our law enforcement, the GBI dedicated to our North Georgia mountains, our drug task force, they will have a representative they can call. And I will walk the floor of that Capitol, and I will go door to door to every representative. There's 180. I'll go to 179 and say, look, we need to end this drug crisis in our state. I'm asking for your vote. January 3rd, Brian K. Pritchard, Georgia State House, District 7. Thank you.